when it becomes obsessive, when it becomes fear-based, when you cannot enter a space without clearing the energy first, without, you can't leave the house without protection, when you think that every single thing, that every challenge or trigger or negatively perceived things that are happening in your life is due to something attaching to you, that's number one, you outsourcing your power to something else. Number two, are feeding into this fear-based agenda that you are somehow vulnerable to things outside of you. A sovereign embodied human being, a powerful centered human being, does not walk around and worry about energy leeches, because your field is so powerful that you know that you can hold it. You walk with protection as your baseline level.
Welcome to today's episode of the Modern Shakti Files with myself, Leanne, and Maya, my co-host. So today we are going to be doing an episode on the spiritual
Nonsense
that we don't subscribe to anymore. And the reason why this is important, and the reason why I think it's very important for our listeners, is that when you start to go through a Kundalini awakening, is a massive energetic, emotional, psychological, all of these different things, processes that you go through. And your energy starts to rise at a very quick rate. And what can happen is you can become very, very ungrounded. And then you're seeking spiritual knowledge, you're speaking spiritual kind of guidance that can also leave you very, very ungrounded and leave you not in a great place. So prior to just doing this podcast episode, we were having a discussion about certain things that we don't subscribe to anymore, because actually what they do is they limit your potential as opposed to support your expression, support your expansion. So I think, first of all, Maya, let's hand it over to you for your take on the nonsense. And what are some of the big things for you that you no longer subscribe to that is within the spiritual space?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily something that I don't subscribe to, but something that I have noticed in the collective that has become a very powerful and persistent issue or presence. And I also see more and more people talking about it, luckily. And that is the super generalized love and light agenda. So, yeah, it's always the number one. Because when you kind of start to tap into like a spiritual journey, and I think in general, just like as a collective evolution, like if you look back a few years ago, before more embodied spiritual practices were actually a thing, it all started and began with like manifestation, the law of attraction. Then, the trend or the collective shift kind of moved into like curiosity and interest into magic and crystals and, ceremonies. So it had like a really interesting natural evolution of its own. And I have seen that a lot, that in the last year at least, we kind of reached that point collectively where many of us started to be like, hold on a second, like this like positive love and light, think positively, like ignore every trigger and negative aspect is actually quite toxic. And secondly, it's also unattainable. And then also with that, we somehow have reclaimed this spiritual identity and persona, which is something we were talking about as well, that we need to be a certain way because all of these other expressions of us doesn't fit into the
What's
pure
good?
love. Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you in terms of love and light. And I have an example that I can share it was really quite dangerous because, as I said, as you remember what happens when you go for a Kundalini awakening is that your upper centers really start to come online. So there's a level of not being fully grounded in reality when you are going through a Kundalini awakening, because your energy is very up here. It's very different dimension, so to speak, because your energy is going up there for a reason. You're ascending. And I remember at the time I went to Morocco, and I had subscribed to the belief system and the notion that because I was a spiritual being, that I had to be love and light, and I had to call people my brothers and sisters, and I had to be really, really good to people. And I subscribed to that.
Sister.
And yeah. And also, like, you get told all the time, well, everything in your reality is just such a mirror, and everything you attract, and all of these different things. And I was in Morocco at the time, and I was really in this persona, this identity of love and light, and everyone's my brothers and everyone's kind to me, and they're going to be a reflection of what's going on in my inner experience. So if my inner experience is all love and light, then everyone's going to be love and light to me. And it left me in a dangerous situation where I just believed that somebody was being kind to me, and actually they were trying to like take money off me. And I got kind of roped into a situation that wasn't good and it wasn't healthy. But because I'd subscribed to this notion of love and light, and I was in quite an ungrounded place, which you can happen when you go for a Kundalini awakening, it puts people in a very dangerous situation, and it takes away the reality that we still live in a world where some people do very shitty things. Some people aren't nice people. Some people will harm you. And walking around going, oh yeah, but love and light and my brothers and my sisters are taking away the nature of reality, and that people can do that, and you take away your agency and your ability to protect yourself and to defend yourself when people are being not very nice to you. So it's almost like, yeah, this one expression of love and light, they're all my brothers and sisters, mwah, mwah, let me hug you. And then the side of self that, wants to defend and protect and all that, like that just gets squashed. It gets put into this box. And I found prior to being a spiritual person, I was a lot more expressed, a lot more powerful than going through a spiritual experience. It was almost like I had psychic knots all around my body squashing how I wanted to be, because of this idea that I needed to behave a certain way in order to be a spiritual person.
Yeah, exactly. And it can certainly like show up in how you behave, and it can also have another perspective, and it's how you speak to, like how you deal with your own emotions. Because if you're way too deep into love and light only, it can be incredibly damaging when it comes to meeting and witnessing negative, like quote unquote, negative emotions. Because you are kind of under the belief that if I just pretend that everything is different, everything is good, and I just think positive thoughts, then anger and frustration and pain and all of these things should naturally just disappear. And it will lead you into this incredibly unhealthy pattern of suppressing certain parts of you, which eventually will have to find its way back out. Like, you can't avoid things for eternity. And if you believe that peace and love only, and I can't get triggered, it means that you're actually giving up your own agency to walk as a sovereign being who is able to witness your own emotions and triggers and alchemize them as an opportunity for growth. And alchemy only happens when you fully merge into the sensation and being present with it. We're not talking about going outside and start, necessarily acting of these emotions. But if you are in that belief of, I shouldn't feel X, Y, and Z, rather than accepting it, and you end up suppressing it, you just keep, feeding yourself with hot coal that eventually is going to start burning you from inside and out. And you become a very unpleasant person, even though you think you are love and light.
Yeah, yeah. I remember another thing that I find in the spiritual community is this level of righteousness that comes with the idea that certain things need to be done a certain way. I often think that spiritual people can be the most bloody narcissistic, self-righteous people in the entire planet, because it's almost like if you do not do it the way that they describe that spirituality should be, then it's wrong or it's bad or it's this and it's that. And everything in life is a belief system, right? Like even spirituality is a belief system. Like, yes, Vedic texts and philosophies, they're thousands and thousands of years old, but if people didn't believe in them, then they wouldn't necessarily be there. And it's like when people come to me and they say, like, you know, you need to do it that way because that's the right way, or you need to do it that way, I just think you don't have a fucking clue whatsoever. Like, you have no idea what spirituality is, because if you did, you'd understand that there is no truth. There's no right, there's no wrong. There's a moral standard in which people can operate in the world that we all have access to, and we decide ourselves what that moral standard is. But essentially, who says what's right, who says what's wrong? Somebody watched my video before and they were watching how I was saging, and they sent me an inbox to tell me I was saging the wrong way. I know, it's just like, thanks for that perspective. I'm
Thank
okay.
God. Thank God you told me this. Thank God. But this is like the essential, like this is like the textbook example of having intellectual spiritual awareness versus
And
embodied
embodied.
spirituality.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Because as though, like, we all want to be right. Like, there's part of us that likes this
Can you come a
idea
bit
or this.
closer to your microphone?
Can you hear me now?
Nice.
Yeah, we all wanna. The body likes certainty. We all like certainty. We like the idea that we can be certain that X is right, X is wrong. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel comfortable. But then embodied spirituality is knowing that there is none of that. There is none of that. And as much as we want things to be a certain way or say that's it, there's no. It's a belief system. Saging in a certain direction, even though certain traditions might teach it in a certain way, it's still a belief system. It's still somebody created an idea that this is how things need to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Rather than you following your intuition of like, how does this want to express through me? What's the intention I'm putting behind this particular act that I am doing, which is always the most powerful part anyway. But I guess this also comes down to a little bit of, there is a lot of like ancient teachings and scriptures, which are incredibly powerful, and traditions, which are also incredibly powerful. And I think it's important to just have a very open mind that we can do things the traditional way. And we are also having freedom to explore new ways of expressing what has been done, because we are shifting. The collective is evolving. We are different people. So the practices that has been taught to us, the base of it, the core, like the skeleton of it is going to stand timelessly. But how it's being implemented into our daily lives, it needs to have space to grow and change and evolve with us.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that, from my personal viewpoint and what I've noticed is that we are not meant to do things the same way. We are all very unique, we're all very different. So who are we to say that how somebody is expressing themselves in the world isn't spiritual, when it might in fact be how their soul is meant to navigate in the world? Like, who are we to define that one thing is right and this is wrong? So
Yeah.
what else? Come on. What else?
I was just going to touch on the fact about when we said intellectual spirituality versus embodied spirituality, and just to be a little bit more specific in what that means. And the reason why I want to bring that up, because I oftentimes have conversations with people, like I meet new people, for example, like on dating sites or whatnot, and they're like, ooh, you've done all of these cool spiritual things. Like they see my Instagram, they see, the ceremonies that I hold. So it automatically comes with like some type of spiritual authority, like a first impression. And they're like, oh, you know so much about these things. I don't know these things. And I oftentimes be like, I really don't care if you know what I'm talking about. Who are you at your core? Because I have met so many people who are like, who embody this whole like of like spiritual teacher, and they live the lifestyle and they look the part, with the hats and the tattoos and whatever it is. But in reality, who they are as like human beings, like how they show up every day, is so far from it. And I have met the most, I say, quote unquote, mundane human beings who are like so far away to drop into a ceremony and still work in a corporate job. But the way they treat people, the way they go about their being and how they show up to every person they meet, it's like the same level as someone who studies spirituality 20 or 30 or 40 plus year without them even opening a book about it.
Yeah. I've got a mentor who he's a millionaire, so he's got a business near where I live. He's spiritual, but he doesn't explore spirituality the way that I do. But every person that he meets, he just like his presence. When he sees them like this. Anyone that he meets just gives them this undivided presence of like, hi, like, you all right? You're this, you're that. Do you know what I mean? Like real connection with these people, irrespective of who they are. And then you may have people that are online that are like, as you said, these spiritual gurus, these spiritual teachers, but they're going home and they're being abusive to their partners, or they're lying, or they're making unethical choices that actually harm other people. And I'm not saying that anyone's perfect, but it's, as you said, like spiritual people who are not integral or ethical. And it's yeah, as you said, like it's this persona of actually, just because you think that you're spiritual or you're awakened doesn't make you a good person.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing, I think rigidity can also translate, like we were talking about, like the authority, like spiritual. Sometimes we think because we have spiritual intellectual knowledge, it can make us authoritative and tell people, so we become quite rigid in our approaches. But that rigidity can also translate into practices. Like I often see people obsessing so much about, oh gosh, I need to do this every day and do this right in a certain order. And if I don't do these practices, I have failed. And like you create this whole other like pressure zone for yourself, like a whole other performance of like, instead of training for a marathon, now you're training for some spirituality test of like, do this fast and make sure you detox properly, and then you do your breathing and you do this and you do this, and if you miss a day.
Yeah, it's like a whole different level of perfectionism. So like it's like the shadow, isn't it, of like, yeah, I might have gone from I'm going to set loads of goals and I'm going to get them perfect, and now I've moved on to spirituality and I'm going to get spirituality perfect. But for me, it's just it's a way of being, and it's a way of moving in the world. And for me, it's about fullness as well, about allowing yourself the capacity to be the fullest expression of who you are.
Yeah. And I guess the counter medicine for that is something that you're also really great in embodying, is that playfulness, right? Like really, really, like the less serious you can take yourself and everything that you do, all of a sudden everything just becomes somehow even more quote unquote spiritual.
Yeah. I think that, like, in my own personal experience of the Kundalini awakening, it can be hard when you are expanding and your vessel is growing and you're holding more light to hold, many perspectives, because you learn a new perspective and you're like, that's the perspective, like that's the way. And the more that you deepen into it, is the more that you can hold so many different ways of being. Like when I was in survival, for example, and I'd be in the corporate career, and I'd go and I'd go and I'd go and I'd go, and I wouldn't stop, and I'd be going promotion, this, that, the other, qualification, blah, 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 all of these different things. It's like I can now appreciate that part of me, but it comes from a different energy, and it comes from an energy of creation. It comes from, can I know that I've got nowhere to be, nothing to prove, and no goals to achieve, and also know that I'm a creative being and I'm fucking driven and I love it and I love to just do what I want and create what I want in the world, and can I hold both of them in my vessel and appreciate both of them things. But when you're on the love and light journey, it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna float in the ether, and everything's just gonna come to me. And
If it doesn't happen, it's because I didn't manifest hard enough. And
yeah,
missing
at
the
one
point.
stage, I told you I went to the Joe Dispenza retreat. I came back, and I was in that much of a delusion that I genuinely thought I was going to walk out my door, and everything I manifested was going to be out the front door.
I mean,
Because when
I can't. I love that level of certainty though, because that is powerful.
it didn't happen, I tell you, it didn't happen.
Maybe you weren't certain enough. You weren't certain enough.
I'm not sure. Like, I do think that them situations are possible for people. Like, I absolutely 100% subscribe to it, but I also believe that we've got different nervous systems. We're born with a different capacity, we're born with cultural and different upbringings, and I think that certain methodologies work best for certain people and certain nervous systems. Like Joe Dispenza's getting everyone to like tap into the quantum field and visualize, and then you just forget about it. That's all he says. Just, you don't even need to think about it, it's already happened. And so many people get results that way, and
Yeah.
that's powerful, that's potent. It's not been my personal experience.
I think that's so powerful, like spiritual nonsense to say that there is one fixed method or solution that works for every person. Like you just said it, that's
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
it. It's like, can
yeah,
we stop believing that the same thing supposed to work for every human being and stop selling, snake oil? This is the only thing you ever need to do, and once you do that, and if it doesn't, there's something wrong with you.
yeah,
Nonsense.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Two
Yeah,
more things that kind of dropped in that I think would be interesting to bring up is number one, fear mongering in the space. Like,
okay.
it kind of connects a little bit with like doing things the right way, but there is a fine line between discernment and being overly obsessive with protection, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then a second one after that is like the readings, the spiritual readings, psychics, going to people, outsourcing guidance. Super useful for some time, but there's also another layer to that.
yeah. And I think what I'd like to also touch on is entities and all of these different things, and how people talk about them.
Let's
Do you want
think
to go
about
ahead
it.
and, yeah, you talk about
No, you
yours?
go ahead. You got
Yeah,
into like let's start with the protection and entities. That's a juicy subject.
yeah, yeah. So I personally, and once again, this is preference, so there's no right and there's no wrong, but I personally, I don't see stuff, I feel everything, but I don't subscribe to the idea of sharing entities and attachments to people, especially people who are in their infancy of spirituality. I find that sharing the notion that I've just detached 6 entities from you that were attached to you, blah 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 blah. Like it's frigging terrifying. Like you're just pitching these dementors off Harry Potter, and I'm just like, how is that serving somebody, and how is that helping somebody, irrespective of the fact that maybe that you might see them things. There's some people with spiritual gifts that do see that. And then also, in my understanding, in my perspective, in my teachings, a lot of these things are unconscious shadows. They're not this I'm gonna harm you, like they're parts of self that are unintegrated. And the way that I've learned and the way that I've been taught is that the unconscious depicts these things as demons, entities, etc., as a way to understand the psyche. And I just don't like what how does it serve you to go, I've done this energy clearing with somebody and I have removed 6 entity attachments, and yes, they were big entities and I take them down, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you? Why? I don't know.
Yeah. And let's talk about the fact too that the only thing that really like creates a ripple in your auric field is a fear-based belief. So when you talk about like, let's just, first of all, let's be clear. Yes, there is a level of attention. Like if you do energy work, ceremony work, or even walk in big crowds, you want to set intention to some extent of what is it that you want to hold in this space. It's part of holding an what's the word I'm looking for?
Intentional.
Intentional and hold space with integrity. That's
Right,
what I was looking for. Yeah. So there are certain steps you would take in order to create very specifically. Let's just keep repeating the same thing, like an integrational. Oh my gosh! Finally said it. So there are steps for that. But when it becomes obsessive, when it becomes fear-based, when you cannot enter a space without clearing the energy first, you can't leave the house without protection, when you think that every single thing, that every challenge or trigger or negatively perceived things that are happening in your life is due to something attaching to you, that's number one, you outsourcing your power to something else.
Yeah.
Number two, are feeding into this fear-based agenda that you are somehow vulnerable to things outside of you. A sovereign embodied human being, a powerful, centered human being does not walk around and worry about, energy leeches, because your field is so powerful that you know that you can hold it. You know that it's like you walk with protection as your baseline level.
Yeah.
And when you are stepping into like working with energy, opening up vortexes and fields and working with people, all means, do you do due diligence, set intentions as you open space, disconnect, clear your field. Basic practice. But it's not something that, oh my gosh, if you haven't done it, then these horrible things are going to happen. I have done that. I forgot like to properly like have I held space and it was amazing. And I'm like on cloud 9 and everyone has like a huge breakthrough. Like I set the space up. But then as I walked out, I didn't really close up my field properly. I was a bit tired for a few days, but so what? I bounce back, and also you learn. Like there's nothing that will forever harm you. And I see people who like whistleblowers, who we talk about, who like see these entities in the astral realm and whatnot, and constantly on a battle between good and evil. And it serves a purpose. It does. But for the average person, it's just not going to be supportive for you to worry about this.
I had a client once that when she worked with somebody, they basically said that they told her that she was getting like attacked by certain like frequency wars and stuff like that. So she came to me and was telling me about it. I was like, right, okay. I was just like, your focus on that stops now. I was like, do not think about it again. I'm telling you, it's gone. What happened? Didn't happen again.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But this person, they're implanting that into her field. Do you know what
Correct.
I mean? They're implanting that into her subconscious. They're implanted that into her field. And then that can grow. If she doesn't feel sovereign enough to say, I'm not interested in that, then they're implanting that into her field. And I just think that just be mindful about what you're implanting and speaking and breathing into somebody's space, irrespective of if them things are there, what gives you the right to say that I see these things? Have they actually asked for that awareness?
Yeah. And also, another thing, when there is something that only another person can do for you, that's a red flag for me. Like, you are the only one who sees this, and you're the only one who can remove it. Like, really? Because surely an embodied spiritual teacher or guide would show me how I can work with my own power to help my own body, to help my own field. They can hold the space for me, but the process is within me. Like, that's what we do in Kundalini activations too, right? We don't push energy into people. We don't remove stuff for people. Their body processes what they're ready to process, because we lead them into a space where they feel safe enough to drop into that process, to the energy. You hold the field. But we don't pull stuff out of people. You can't do that. And it's the same thing. And now that's leading into outsourcing your authority and your intuition into readings and guidance outside of you. Do not get me wrong. I used to be a tarot reading addict. Like 6 years ago, when I was going through like my breakup that like really triggered me into my biggest awakening. I used to have this time when I would be like on the phones of like, what's happening? Can you tell me what the cards are saying, please? And it was like therapy for me. It was so good because I don't know, it was just someone who said, yes, I can see the cards 100%, it will be okay. But the point is that eventually we want to get to a stage where, number one, we can interpret our own guidance. And number two, I think the master level is like, I don't even want to know. Surprise me.
And I can handle whatever it is that comes next. And I'm okay with that. And I don't have to be anywhere. And I'm not scared of anything. And I'm not scared of failure. Yeah, all of them different things. And I think that, yeah, what I love about some of the people that I work with at the moment and I teach is that they always open things up to go, this is a perspective. This is not the truth. See what resonates with it. See how that lands for you. Because they know that you are your own biggest authority. And I don't try to take people away from that. I don't try and position myself as someone's guru. I will often say to them, like when they come to me, I will often say, you know what you need to do, to encourage them to, yeah, I know what I need to do. I just need to actually do it. Yeah. I love that. I bet after this as well, like I'll probably think about another 10 spiritual shitty things, you know, that I'm just completely, I'm over now. I just like, for me, like that my desire and what I want to see in the world is really people owning who they are and their fullest expression and their fullest potential in whatever way looks right for them.
Yeah.
Even if it's not spiritual, even if it's not the way that, yeah. I think the most powerful spiritual being is somebody that's authentic, who's comfortable in who they actually are.
Can we rename? Like, I no longer want to be spiritual, I just want to be authentic. That's the title to claim.
Yeah.
Authentic.
Yeah. And I think I'd just like to touch on embodiment as well as before we close this. And what I mean when I say that is that, as you said, intellectualizing spiritual information aside from actually feeling it. Like right now, I'm sat here, I've got electricity moving up and down my legs that I can I feel everything. Do you know what I mean? I'm deeply present in this body and in this vessel and embodied, and the knowledge that I have, a lot of the time people don't teach me. It comes through me, it comes through experience. And that is the difference between I'm going to learn from somebody, I'm going to pick up a book. I woke up in the middle of the night the other day, in the middle of the night, my attention focused on a spot on the wall, and I just stared blindly at this spot on the wall, I was naturally shifting my energetic state to a masculine pole. And I naturally knew that if I can focus my attention on that spot for a period of time without moving and doing all of these like moves that are like ninja style movements, that's going to shift an energetic change within my body. No one taught me that. It comes through me. And that's the difference between like picking up a book and going, oh, this teacher taught me this, and being deeply, deeply rooted in your connection to God, source, consciousness, to your channel, to allowing your expression in whatever form that it wants to move through you, Because I can pick up a ninja sword right now and know how to fucking use it. No one's taught me that. I will chop somebody up. No one's taught me how to do that. It comes through me.
Hypothetically chop somebody up. We don't say that on the record. But I know what you mean. Legal purposes, it's just a matter of expression.
Yeah, for legal purposes. But it's reclaiming the parts of you that could be dangerous. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes that's an absolute necessary part of being human, not just love and light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got anything else to add before we finish?
I think we covered it. I'm curious how this landed for you, who's listening to this. What is like the biggest thing that you're like, yeah, me too, or like, thank God, finally someone said it? Because I know like what we spoke about today is something that I had so many people coming to me and ask these things. So I'm really curious where you are with it, who is listening to this right now. Leave us a comment. Connect with us. We're doing this so that we can share and really support you in this journey. So we love to hear from you, whether that's in a comment on YouTube, on Spotify, or connect with us on Instagram. We have our details in the captions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, let us know if there's anything specific you want to speak about next. We are also going to, well, we have to speak about this with Liam, but we're also going to start inviting guests on this podcast.
Yeah.
So we're going to have
Sorry, darling, keep going.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say maybe after our 10th episode.
Yeah, we can see. Yeah, and then we are going to be able to speak about Kundalini, but also from different, like more perspectives, whether it's from a professional. Who did you say you had? A doctor, right? A psychologist?
Doctor, psychologist. There's other Kundalini practitioners as well that I think will be interesting, so they can share their perspective on it as well.
Because that's exactly what we've been saying. As many people, many human beings, as many unique expressions of Kundalini there are.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm really excited to hear multiple perspectives on it, because obviously we're two people. We have our own unique way of experiencing this energy, and it expresses in many different ways.
And we learned so much already from each other. Imagine.
Yeah, imagine the rest. Yeah. I'm really excited. But thank you guys for dialing in, and we'd love to see you in the comments. And yeah, hope you dial into the next podcast episode, and sending you all so much love.
Bye.